Whoa, we're back to some Bleach Soul Resonance, and there's going to be 5 characters I think you should prioritize if you have them in your box, or more importantly, if they return in the near future. Obviously, a character like Mayuri is going to be on here because he's going to be a part of a selector, it seems, at some point, a paid selector perhaps during the Bambi patch when he is buffed. So they said he's going to be buffed, so obviously we're going to talk about Mayuri. 5 characters. I believe I settled on 2 of them SRs and 3 of them limited. And one of them is a little more shaky because he is one of the half anniversary characters. But this is more so in the next 4-5 months of this game existing. These are characters that I don't think will be replaced, and who I think have incredible value for any account who is new, maybe started during the TYBW celebration. So if that sounds like you, if it sounds like you returned, if you have some of these other characters who are sort of loitering around, this could make your box much, much better. And it might be one of those things where, as of August the 3rd, this is sort of my assessment of who you would prioritize if you needed to pull a second character on a banner. So you pull your limited character, you get your Bambietta, and then there's another character there. Who would you actually pull that character? Nelliel? No. I've said that many times. Nelliel? No. She is too much of a gobbler of screen time. It just is what it is. So these are going to be screen independent, supporting, powerful characters who, even if they got replaced like a month after I made this list, would still have pretty great synergistic value with most things that could come out in like after them. So again, 2 SRs, 3 limiteds. One of them is half anniversary, sadly, but I do think that we could see that return around the time anniversary comes out, and I do think that we could see that character be useful around the time the anniversary comes out. Whereas the other 2, I think we could see be moved on to selectors. So maybe that's a little bit of a tease, but let's get into that list, and hopefully this helps out anyone who is new and sort of planning, because mobile games are all about planning. These gacha games are all about planning. You have to plan for characters to return. You have to plan your Jade in advance. Doesn't mean you have to skip in a game like Bleach Soul Resonance, but it means that if you ever pull something early, maybe you don't pull a dupe because you want to plan to save for a character you might need to rerun later down the road, right? So I am Lone. Let's get into it. So starting off, we have Mayuri. Mayuri is a complete powerhouse within the game. I would describe Bleach Soul Resonance as being in a Mayuri vacuum right now. There is just no place for other characters without Mayuri around, and it's not really going to be fixed until we start getting power creep supports. And there is a hole within Bleach Soul Resonance's meta that is just completely like manufactured by the developers. Supports are the most important, to the point where most people don't even know that like Mayuri and Zael aren't so different, especially in the case of Zael having like better boundaries than Mayuri does. And it's mostly because people don't want to invest in a support. They want to invest in their DPS, right? So there's this huge vacuum that only supports fill, and it seems obvious to just be like, well, duh, you need supports on the team. But it's like, it's not just duh, you need supports on the team. It's the characters literally do not function. Like Nelliel and just sort of like the strike team as a whole are nothing without Mayuri right now. It's just him. I did an example of actually running True Shikai Ichigo with Tosin, and you can get up to like 250 million damage with True Shikai Ichigo without this guy's supporting core stamp because you have Mayuri. Like, obviously, when you get Nelliel and you add her damage on, you can get up to 500 millions and stuff like that free to play. But you need like dupes. You need a dupe 1, maybe even dupe 2 to really assist, because she's taking up so much time. For that amount of investment, you could just use Kaname, clear all of the content, because you do not need super duper built characters for content, and, you know, take your Jade and wait. So Mayuri is just the actual like pinnacle of the game right now for free to plays. I would say, I'm sure other people could disagree. Maybe you say it's actually Tsushika Ichigo just because of the damage he does, but I think the game runs currently on Mayuri's damage like increases, the 300% crit damage up, like actually absurd character. If Mayuri didn't exist, this strike team would fall into the abyss, right? It's actually like kind of sad how little this strike team does, because they do not have a dedicated support. So Mayuri is the definite like get him first option, I think. So if White Ichigo does decide to return, I would consider him a must pull, at least to some degree. The reason is that even on a team, even as a character who cannot use Mayuri, even as a character who literally cannot make use of that character, he and Kenpachi, with just Kenpachi being supported by Mayuri, are outputting the same damage as a team supported by Mayuri, and like with synergy. He is so powerful, and he is so powerful at Boundary 0. At Boundary 1, at Boundary 2, very good as well. If you really like White Ichigo, if you're a fan of White Ichigo, I'm telling you right now, this is a great character to pull. I think he's got great synergy with Kenpachi. I think he's got pretty good synergy with Bankai Ichigo. I know people wanted it to be more, but he is giving so much. He's bathing the team in support. He is generating a lot of stats for himself. He is doing good damage, and he is a counter attack proccing machine. This character procs so many counter attacks pretty easily. His rotation is really fast. His rotation is really off screen. They are probably not going to get rid of this character until 2027. I'll say it right now. They're not getting rid of this character until 2027, I think. Like, I think we will be playing this character plus a slash character plus a like slash support SSR into February at the earliest. Like, I think so. Obviously he's half anniversary, but yeah, I think we need there's let's see, there's 4 more months. It's the 3rd right now. There's 4 more months left in the year. So about 4-ish characters, not counting, and 2 of them will be anniversary characters, and they're probably going to release Vastalord Ichigo, who will either be a strike character or a slash character, and they're probably going to release, I don't know, Stark, who's probably going to be a spirit character. And so maybe they could release another character like a Shunsui, like a Yamamoto, who could be slash, but I just don't see it. And if they do, I think that character ends up being the DPS, because Kenpachi is much older than this character. I think that pulling for Hollow Ichigo is not a bad idea if you end up having the extra pulls. He is one of the only tactics who I think genuinely does not need any like sort of additional boosts, because most of the tactics characters kind of do need their dupes to be like meaningful. Yeah, I think he's worth mentioning. I think Rangiku is kind of the character that's been sort of left behind by the game. The game has moved a little bit away from her, but I would say that Rangiku provides an incredible amount of consistency to teams in events that are sort of long-standing, permanent events. So the Frenzy Feast, the Las Noches showdowns, the, you know, even full-on events over in like this realm that you might only be able to use 1 or 2 teams per. Like, I think Rangiku has ended up being maybe my most used SR unit by far. That's even counting SR plus units like Okieda or Grimjo. Rangiku has been a monster the entire time. I would desperately suggest to build your Rangiku if you have her. Obviously, she gets a lot out of her dupes. You do need those dupes, but she is an SR character, so just through playing the game, you will sort of amass them by proxy. I mean, if you're one of those people who ended up pulling for Nell, what does this guy's banner look like actually? Yeah, it doesn't have the rate up. If you're one of those people who ended up pulling for Nell, I'm pretty sure, yeah, she's right up on this. So she is very good still. Is she as good as when she was the best support in the game alongside like Yurahara and then you know, on a team with like double supporting Aizen. No, obviously she's like fallen from that esteem. We have actual supports in the game now, but when fleshing out an account, it is extremely difficult to leave Rangiku off that list. She just does so much. She does so much, she has so little, and her investment is very easy because she is an SR character, and because she is an SR character who's a support, she needs the vaguest amount of gear to be functional, and I really value that. I value that quite highly. Another character I would suggest adding to your repertoire, and even the slightest amount, is Yachiru. There was a time when Yachiru plus Kenpachi did more damage with Yachiru literally being level 40 with no stats in her core stamp, like literally unupgraded, but having Ascension 5 with no real levels in her weapon, literally level 30, but having Ascension 5, where this character was like out supporting, you know, big, you know, like Urahara with Kenpachi. Like, obviously, if you had a Urahara who was duped up, which this at this point for free to plays, you needed to purely get lucky. There was no selector yet. You could argue that, like, okay, yeah, Urahara up here was still doing enough little bits of damage to outclass Yachiru. But when it comes to needing characters, when it comes to grabbing a character like Kenpachi, maybe you grabbed Kenpachi and you're a returning player. When it comes to using characters like that, she becomes so useful for bridging the gap if you need a character for Slash, perhaps. I would say that one thing I regret about doing this is that I should have put Kisuke over here and probably slotted Yachiru in over here for Kenpachi, and it would have made my runs better, because my strike team would have been better, and my Slash team probably would have been better as well. So if you're someone who's returning, if you're someone who picked up Kenpachi at some point, maybe you put the game down after, you just weren't interested, I think Yachiru is the character you need to build, and she is a character who is extremely low investment. I have literally never raised this character past level 40 from when I started the game, and I still just bring her out, right? Like, I still literally just bring her out for the bits of support she gives to Kenpachi specifically. Yeah, here. When Kenpachi Zaraki's in the team, the bonuses from spectating inspiration on him are increased by 1.5 times. You can just level this character up and, have these numbers get jacked up and up and up. Bunch of slash damage for Kenpachi. So a little more of a specific character. If you have Kenpachi, she's a wonder. If not, boo-hoo. But I would definitely recommend her. And last but not least, the character I'm pretty high on even still is Soifon. I don't know when they would really find a way to power creep this character, at least within the next year, so the next 4 months. We are sort of seeing at least 2 supports in the coming months, I'd imagine. And if we are, we're probably not going to see like an immediate tactic swap out yet. I would expect DPSs to get rotated out sooner. Because of that, I do think Soifon is going to have quite a bit of value. This character generates counter attacks so quickly. This is a counter attack machine. She machine gun fires them out. Pair that with the fact that Yoruichi is very strong with her, meaning you do not need to grab Grimjo if you are using Soifon. Just saves you more dupes again, or more pulls again. Grimjo is a half anniversary character, so he probably won't be returning anytime soon. Because of that, if you're a new player, I would suggest that if you do see Soifon up, maybe during anniversary they rerun her with a strike Vasta Lord Ichigo, right? Because he's throwing Okieta around. I would probably pick this character up. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I do think she'll have value for quite a bit more time. Even once she does get replaced, I would also say that her value remains pretty solid, because in events where we might start seeing like double strike events, or we might start seeing the return of Mystic Frontline, which had like your attempts were varied or limited by how deep your box was. You could see a character like Yoruichi plus Soifon make a great free-to-play shell to sort of extend the life of your box, the floor of your box, essentially, the floor of your account. I think this character is very good. We don't know what like buffs and easy A's or Zenkais will look like in the future, but this is one of those characters I would look out for to become very strong as the game sort of persists, because she just has a really strong mechanics. If you're wondering, okay, well, you would suggest her but not Nelliel, like how does that work? I think it's just because Nelliel has to be doing the damage and Soifon literally does not. Soifon is an additive on top of your damage. Nelliel is sort of a vacuum of your damage. If she's not doing the damage, she just takes so long to get out. So until we see her buffed in a meaningful way, maybe at some point again, Zenkai Awakened, you know, Easy A Nelliel. Maybe. I think she'll return and do a lot of damage, but until that point, I have to suggest at least grabbing a B0 Soifon at some point in the near future if she does happen to return and you're a new to player, free to play player, low spending player, what have you, because I do think this character is really good. I was always a bit of a Soifon advocate. I thought this character was good the day she dropped. She was undervalued because people didn't understand that her role was not to do the damage on the team. Her role was to support the damage. She did not have her DPS, but she is a strong mechanical character, a mechanically deep character. And that is all you really need to do to have sort of a lasting impression with me. One of the reasons that Aizen is not being recommended in this case is because even though he's universal, even though he's Aizen, even though he gets buffs, even though he's if you don't have like a B4 Aizen at this point, or at least a B1 Aizen at this point, I just don't see it. He is more like Nelliel than he is like Soifon. He procs counterattacks pretty okay. He does damage pretty good, but he's just sort of been aged out, and he takes too much attention away from Okieda. That is the exact same problem that Nelliel is currently facing. Soifon does not have this problem. Soifon and Ichigo, Kurosaki, Inner Hollow are much more like each other, and that they are selfless tactics characters who do not need to be on field much and push and, like, you know, strengthen their combo, right? So these two characters would be the tactics characters that I think, if they return, it might behoove you to grab at least one copy of them. But with all that being said, I have been loaned, of course. Ultimately, it's a gacha game. It's a mobile game. You have to use your currency the way you want to use it. Remember that when you are pulling on extra banners, though, you do get enough currency to get a character each cycle. You do not get enough currency to get double characters and double weapons each cycle, barring some luck. So remember that you will sort of still have to pick and choose outside of major events who you are pulling for. But another reason this could be valuable is Soifon, Mayuri, as we've seen, I don't know, just, you know, maybe even Nelliel. They are characters who are not, well, Nelliel is, she's from Chinese New Year. Let's say Soifon, Mayuri, Bankai Ichigo, Toshiro, these are characters who aren't released during a special time. And so I could see Soifon being added to a selector in the future. And if you see Soifon in a selector, I'm going to say that she would be probably top of that list outside of getting yourself one copy of Mayuri, you know, to start your account off, right? It would be Mayuri, Soifon, etc. So that's going to do it for me, though. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the club, we'll go make it, and peace.